afternoon and welcome back. On today's video we're going to be lowering the Yukon. I'm going to lower it 2 inches in the front, 2 inches in the back, install brand new shocks, and definitely improve the ride. For parts we got Monroe shocks, front and rear. We got a shackle kit, spring compressor, and some anti-seize. And this is actually, I'll show y'all later in the video. It's a tip that I use, something that I personally use the anti-seize for, but we'll get to that later in the video. So let's get right to it. Okay, so I've already got this on jack stands. I put my floor jack underneath already. So I just wanted to go over, I've already replaced upper and lower ball joints on this. I've replaced the brakes, inner and outer tie rods. So the only thing that was missing is the shocks. And a tip I would give to anybody working on these trucks is if you can see right there where the shock bolts come through, they come from the bottom. Let's see if I can get in there a little bit more. You can kind of see them right there where the shock connects to the control arm. If you soak those beforehand, they come out a lot easier. And the other tip is that top nut that's up here. If you can see right there, right where the light is shining, that top nut, that's the top nut to the shock. If you can get to that with an impact, man, it's going to save you so much time. Trying to hit that with a deep socket and a ratchet, it's just going to take so much time. I've done it in the past and it ends up turning that whole shaft inside the shock. Just burns up a lot of your time. And I've got an impact with me right now. I hit that top nut with the impact, zip it right out, and get this process going. Some of the tools I would recommend having are some needle nose pliers, of course some impact sockets to take your wheel off, but one in particular, if you plan on taking off your caliper, it's a Allen socket. It's a 3/8 Allen socket. That would be for your caliper. That top bolt on the shock, I think I had already said it's a 15 millimeter deep socket. The needle nose would be good for cotter pins, as well as one of these pick tools. It's got like a hook, helps pull on that loop at the end of the cotter pin. And for the caliper, that way I hate when the calipers hang, so a bungee strap, you know, just to hang it off to the side is a good idea. sure and keep this in order. You don't want to lose these pieces. Get them misaligned in the wrong order. At this point, I'll set the jack underneath it, compress the spring, and we'll remove this upper control arm. Okay, at this point we have the spring out. I just popped it out. Really didn't want to show that on camera in case anything went wrong. Thank God nothing went wrong. So on the top of these springs comes a cushioner. You want to hang on to this, and because what we're gonna do is actually cut this spring, not drastically, just enough to get that 2-inch drop that we're looking for. So we'll hang on to this, and after we cut, we'll actually get some tape and tape it to this. That way, when we slide it back in, there's no chance of it falling off or, you know, just giving us trouble trying to put it back in. Okay, so what I've done here is actually marked the half mark right here, because normally, like as far as my black truck, I cut a full coil and a quarter, which gave me 4 inches of drop. So I'm looking for 2 inches. I'll go half of that, half of a coil and a quarter, which would be about 5/8 of a cut, which you can determine by going halfway. A quarter would be about right here, a quarter. So we'll go 1/8. That would make it the 5/8 cut. So we'll make the cut right here and reinstall this spring. Okay, here we have our cut already made. This is what I cut off right here. This here is the 5/8 cut. That's what I call it. If you go with the one and a half coil cut, you actually end up bottoming out, and that's what's happening on my black short bed. So doing the 1.5 cut, I just don't recommend. It's a rough ride. Go with the proper parts. Doing a cut like this is, to me, it's acceptable. It's not gonna bottom out. Your shocks are gonna work properly, and it's gonna give you a good look. It's gonna set the vehicle lower, and that's what we're looking for today. Okay, as you can see here, I've put I've seated the cushion right back onto this spring. Looks a little crusty, but this thing is gonna keep it from squeaking the ride. I've put the tape right here and also right here. So now when I reinstall the spring, I shouldn't have any problems reinstalling it. No problems with this cushioner coming off. Okay, now before I put the spring back in, I just wanted to show you where the spring should seat. The last coil should seat right in here. Okay, so so here are the new shocks. About to put on the driver's side shock. Here's the hardware. These are 2 bushings, your 2 washers, and then the nut that goes up top. So on these, they've got 2 different sides. So you'll have the this bigger piece right here. Your washer will sit just like that. This will go towards the frame of the, I don't know how well that comes in. That'll go towards the frame, and it'll sit right inside of the hole of the frame for the shock. At this point, I'm going to install it. I have that little spacer, the washer first, the bushing. I'll install it through the spring and then go through the top with the bushing first, and then the little washer that goes up top, and then the nut. Okay, at this point I've got everything reassembled, and I'm gonna put the wheel back on, and I'm gonna do the other side. Go ahead and get it done, and we'll see how it sets in the front. One thing I do recommend on these, on the shackles, before you get ready to take them off, hit them with some WD-40 on the bolt on the inside where these bushings are at. Just, you know, let them set. That way when you get to raising the vehicle, they'll set, they'll loosen. It'll be easier to take out. I'm gonna get ready to take these shackles off and put the new ones on, and we'll be putting on the shocks as well. Okay, so I started on the back. I had to take off the rear tires because you've got to jack up the back of the Yukon and support it, and then you've got to drop the axle. With the tires on, the axle won't drop low enough. And the reason for dropping the axle is that way you can remove the shackles with ease, and you're not going to have bolts being jammed. And so yeah, just be sure when you do this, you chalk the wheels for sure. You don't want the thing rolling back on you. And for extra measure, I threw them tires right underneath. Okay, at this point I've ran into a problem right here. This bolt won't come out because it's hitting the frame. But since we've already removed this, we'll be able to lift the axle upwards, and it should send this straight up into this clearance area right here, and that bolt should slide right on out. Okay, I've raised the axle. These bolts will come right on out now. Dropping the axle, dropping the shackle right here. And the new shackles will actually be tall enough to clear the frame, and there should be no problems reinserting that bolt. Okay, I removed one of the shackles, and as you can see right here, these two, this is your stock height. If you were to use this bolt here or this hole, it would just be stock height. So if you go up to this one, it'd be an inch drop, and this would be a 2-inch drop. So we'll end up going with this second hole, the highest one. That'd be our 2-inch drop. And the tip that I wanted to show y'all was the bolt that goes at the very bottom. I bought a tube of this anti-seize lubricant. Rub this all over this bolt here, and that's to keep it from locking in place. I have actually installed these on that black pickup of mine in the past. When I went to remove them to do the 6-inch drop, I needed to put these back, the factory style shackle back in. When I went to remove these, the bolt was seized up inside of this drop shackle. I ended up having to cut it about right here. The bolt was just completely seized in. No amount of WD-40 would take it out. So my advice to you if you do these, maybe it won't happen every case, you know, every person that gets drop shackles, but to keep this bolt from ever locking in place, I would apply some anti-seize lubricant. All right, I put about a strip on this bolt, a strip of the anti-seize. I'm gonna put one on the other bolt for this other shackle. I'm gonna go ahead and just button everything back up together. All right, so currently it's the next day. It's about 9:30 this morning. It got a little dark last night, so I wasn't able to film. But this is what it looks like after doing the 2-inch drop in the rear. The trim on the springs, I mean, you could see it in the video. I actually measured the front from the ground to the top of the fender, and it was 32 inches to start with. It went down maybe like a 1/2 inch. The rear, I mean, you can definitely see the shackles did the job. So on another day, I'll probably get in there myself and trim a little bit more on the front springs. I won't film that, but you know, the purpose of this was just to show y'all how to drop it, you know, in the front, just by cutting them. I don't want to call it a hack because it's not trimming all that much anyway, but So this is what it looks like right now. It's got all the new shocks on it. But yeah, I definitely wanted to even out, even if it's lower in the front slightly than the back. But I will be fixing this. This was actually an opportunity for me to see what cutting the springs, just a mild cut, would look like on the factory springs for my black truck, because this is actually what I was going to do on the black truck to raise it. Still not sure, still unsure about what I want to do as far as the black truck. So this completes what I wanted to do on the Yukon. In an upcoming video, maybe later, after a few more videos, I'll be doing the black truck. But I'd like to go into more detail on the inside, with the fender well, the frame, paint it, maybe even the caliper, do like some red paint on the caliper. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you like the content that I've put up so far, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't, to help support me and to grow my channel. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.